Take me to another place where the fairy tales don't end. Magical, magical land. Magical, magical land. To another place where the fairy tales don't end. Magical, magical land.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Jens Heitland Show, where I meet with people to connect the dots of innovation and entrepreneurship. My name is Jens Heitland and I am your host. I set myself a challenge for 2021 to empower 1 million people to innovate. This podcast is one of the many activities on that journey. So if you're interested to be part of that journey, please follow me on social media. But let me introduce the guest of today's show. He's an entrepreneur, a tech marketing strategist, a podcaster, and an innovator, and a gamer. So please welcome to the show, Antonio Pavlovic. Hi, Antonio.
Hey, and gamer. Yeah, that's an important bit there. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't written it down. It's like, oh no, he's gamer as well. So I should add that.
And I'm probably an old fart gamer. I'm 48, so and I'm still gaming. So well,
you're still young, in the way how you think, at least.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, hopefully a little bit. The interesting thing with now I'm going to sound really old. The interesting thing with getting old is that when I was 20 and I would see someone who was 45, I'd think, oh my God, it's a complete human being.
Yeah.
And he knows what he's talking about. And now I look at myself and I'm like, Jesus, I'm not. And probably the kids that are now 20, they're thinking, look at me, going like, oh, he's got a graying beard, so he must be clever. No, I'm the same idiot I was when I was 20.
Yeah.
Just with a little more scars. That's it.
Same here. And less hair for me, at least.
Yeah. but many more scars, which is probably the reason why what people assume is experience and knowledge or something.
That helps. I'm working on that. But tell us a bit about yourself. Like, who are you and what are you doing?
As you know, if you let me talk too long, we'll be here for a
I will cut
time.
you off.
Yeah, please do.
There's no connection anymore.
Yeah, please do. So I'm a bit of a black sheep in property, in real estate. I've been working in real estate or in the property industry for quite a long time. It's almost been now, let me think, it's almost 18 or 19 years now. But I studied industrial design, industrial product design. So my background is industrial product design. I did work as a product designer as well, honestly quite successfully, but then got fed up, got into a fight with my then CEO and decided to leave, and then decided to do something else and ended up being in property and on the sort of creative side of things. So my background is when it comes to property is very much in branding, in marketing, in digital marketing, and pretty much everything that I've done revolves around strategy and using that sort of product thinking that I learned when I was a product designer and implementing that in any products and including property. For me, a shopping center or an office or a hotel or a residential building, any of those is just another product that needs to fulfill a need. And for me, it's how do you actually understand those needs and how you fulfill those needs, how you create a product that actually fulfills those needs. So the thinking is pretty much the same that I learned when I was at university. But so I've done many different things in property. Started as a graphic designer of all things, and then moved up the ladder and worked for two quite big real estate companies in Europe, and then decided to 3 years ago, almost to the day. Well, it's not true. In November of 2017, started my own business that whose focus is on strategy for property. So I help landlords and investors create better products and create products that fulfill the needs of their tenants and in case of retail properties, fulfill their needs of the tenants and also, of course, the needs of the customers. So I'm sitting in the middle of that sort of mix when it comes to looking at properties and deciding what those strategies should be.
Yeah, and that must be a fun job to be in, especially in the time where we're recording this in December 2020, which is like at least I'm sitting in Germany, the second wave of COVID. So I guess that's an interesting time frame to be in your job. So how does that look like?
Well, the thing is that, and this has been mentioned so many times, but yes, it's very interesting. Like, they say, may you live in interesting times, which is this year's been interesting. Next year is going to be even more interesting. But it is interesting because all the changes that we are seeing now, especially in retail properties, but also in offices and those kind of products, is that, like it's been said so many times, it's been there for a very long time. And whilst sometimes before the pandemic, I felt like I was shouting in the being sort of alone somewhere in the desert and saying, like, guys, we need to do something here. Now all of a sudden everyone's listening because there's no hiding anymore. You can't hide anymore and think that things will go back to normal after all this is over. They won't. So the pandemic has, accelerated the future. It has, accentuated the problems and the issues that were already out there, and now they're in plain sight and can't hide away from them anymore. And it requires a different way of thinking, a different way of approaching the problems and dealing with those problems than most businesses are used to. So, I, like you say, it is from my side of the property industry business it is very interesting, and it's been quite a ride for the last 3 years, I have to say.
Yeah. So I have quite some listeners who are either still in large corporation and thinking about like jumping over the fence and going into entrepreneurship, and then I have some who are like starting to be entrepreneur and like in their first 2 years. How was that for you? Like going from a large corporation into your own business and starting that?
Am I allowed to swear, by the way?
Yeah, always.
It was scary as fuck. So because I had an idea of what I wanted, and I had an idea of how I would, or my business would, bring value to the clients, right? Because I thought I saw a gap somewhere, and I thought that my business would be the one to sort of one of the businesses to fill in that gap. And although that idea, of course, sounds really well in your own head, and with your friends and your family and everyone is very supportive. And I have to say, my wife has been tremendously supportive of this, which is quite important, I would say, in my context.
Definitely.
It is scary because, you put yourself out there and you try to create this business where you see the gap, but you have to make the other people also see that there's value in what you're bringing, and it's not always easy. And I remember the first time when I think a month after not even a month after the business was officially formed, I went to Mapic, which is this big real estate fair that happens in Cannes every year. You've been there, I've been there, God knows how many times, but this time I went by myself, representing myself, not my former businesses or the businesses that I was part of, but I was representing myself. And on one side, it was great because all the mistakes that I made were my own, and there was no one else to blame; it was just me. On the other side, it was like, you get on the table of these people, and you know how Mapic is. It's just like a meeting after meeting after meeting, and I was trying to sort of grab not the attention, but specifically, but more grab the interest of people by explaining what I was looking to do and what the value would be that I would bring. It's not always easy because people either don't listen, and there can be two reasons for that. Because one reason could be that they're not interested, and two is because you're boring and you're not telling them anything new. So that's one. Second one is that they don't understand what you're saying, and that's also two reasons. Either they don't really understand or you're explaining it badly. Yeah. So I was in there and sort of swimming, going like, "What the hell is going on?" But when I looked back at those 3 days in Cannes at the first year in 2017 and flying back to London, I was like, wow, this has been one, super exciting, two, bloody scary, and three, I've learned so much just, from speaking to people. And the reason for that is that because I was always part of a big corporation, I was always on the other side of the table. Yeah. And people were selling stuff to me. Yeah. Now all of a sudden the tables had turned, and I was trying to sell something to them. And I was like, what would I expect? What would I want? And so that's why it was scary. And still I've learned that you can go into a meeting and the meeting can be hugely successful. It can feel like everything's fine and great, and you will only get, happy faces and claps and even people saying in meetings, yes, we're going to do this. And then, you wouldn't hear from them at all, and they would ignore you. And for whatever reason, because maybe I was obnoxious, and maybe they didn't understand, or maybe they didn't explain it well, or maybe that just other stuff got in the way. So at the beginning, it was scary and frustrating because I would go into a meeting, have a really good feeling about this because, of what was being discussed and what people had told me. And then it would just disappear, just go away. And coming from, a busy job for many years, and you would sit at home going like, what else do I need to do? What is it? What can I do to sort of, you don't want to annoy people by calling them every 5 minutes, but sometimes you feel like it. Sometimes you just feel like going like, remember? And but you just have to accept it. So it took me a while to get through that. It took me a while to understand that although it's a priority for me, it's not necessarily a priority for someone else.
Yeah, and it's also what to that point. What I realized for myself is like, you're just on a faster pace than these huge organizations.
Yeah.
You're deciding left, right, up, center, in seconds and days. And these are things, we have both been on the other side, where it's like, it takes months to decide something. And you don't have that anymore. So you're just way, way, way faster. And then it feels like ages. I've had it just last week, whereas I was emailing someone, it's like, hey, I haven't heard from you the last week. You said you come back to me. It's like, it's just a week ago.
Yeah,
a week is a month. It's a year for me.
Yeah. But it's. I lost my line of thought. There was something I wanted to say to that point, but I lost my line of thought there. That is quite frustrating. There's a lot of frustration, but once and also just to sort of the entrepreneurial side of all this is that you can't plan anything. You can plan when something starts, right? If there's a project, you can plan and blah, 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 and there's something that you're involved with. Of course, you can plan that, but you can't plan, next month I'll be doing this. You don't know.
Yeah.
Because and some of the things that happened to me, some of the really good things that happened to me and to my business came seemingly out of nowhere. But those were seeds that I planted many months or even years before. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, came up because something happened with a company or something, and then it will sort of come up and you would get involved into that. But you can't plan for that. You can't think, the seed, the conversation that I had 5 years ago, even when I was somewhere else, all of a sudden would yield results 5 years later. You don't know that. So that's another thing that is really frustrating because you just don't know. So it was, for me, it is for the last 3 years has been try to be at as many places that I can. Try to make my sort of my voice heard and my opinions heard, and see what happens. There's, I'm not selling hotcakes, so I can't say I've baked 20 hotcakes and I need to sell them. I don't know. It's just
From a positive aspect, because we are both sportsmen and you're a runner as well. How does it look? What is the difference from a private life perspective and the freedom you gain? I mean, we have talked about that, like on your podcast as well a while ago. So how is that?
Yeah, that is really good. That is really cool. Because that's another thing that I had to get used to, because it's, you can, in the middle of the day, you can just decide, you know what, I'm going to go running now, and I'm going to go out running for 2 hours, and I'll come back and I'll see what I do after that. When I came out of the sort of corporate world, that felt really weird. Yeah. Because you all of a sudden it's like, but I should actually be behind, no, you shouldn't. You can do whatever you want, because in the sense that because it's your own business, you don't have any weekends anymore. You don't have any evenings anymore. You don't have any vacations anymore. It's your business is become part of your daily life. So you can restructure that any way you want. And I find running particularly, and sports in general, to be really helpful in that, because it's healthy, but it's especially for me, it's especially healthy inside of the melon that I carry on my shoulders. It is very sort of helpful in the psychological sense of things. Really helps to settle down your thoughts and your crazy whirlwinds inside of my mind anyway. So yeah, I'm loving that. And I still do it. I mean,
same on my side. And what I always realized that when I'm going out for a run, as an example, is that the good ideas come when I'm running, not when I'm sitting at the desk or do work stuff. The good stuff comes when you do something completely different. Yeah. And you get a good idea, and then, I've never thought about this that way.
But also it brought, I don't know if this is your experience, it also brings a sense of when I'm running, and I generally tend to sort of hurt myself when I run, in the sense that I'm not a casual runner. I tried really hard to run either as fast as I can or as far as I can. So I always try to push myself, and that's also taught me quite a bit about patience. When you're running up the hill, and it's really tough, and it's hot, and you're tired, and you're thirsty, and all of that, but just the fact that I know that I'm going to get up that hill in the end, but just to have the patience and the presence of mind, and this is not getting really philosophical, but it's just the presence of mind to sort of no, okay, I'll just keep doing what you're doing, and you get there, or whatever it is. It helps also in the business sense, because it teaches you, it helps you realize that, no, just keep doing what you're doing, and you'll get there. And that again, it's very philosophical, but it certainly helped me.
Yeah, I agree. Same on my side. If we look entrepreneurship, and that's a bit, if you're okay with that, a lot of people just see the outside, like the shell and the success you have, but the success only comes, at least in my experience, with a lot of failures and mistakes, things you have. Is there any mistake you did which you would like to share, where you said, like, without this, I wouldn't be there? Because that's often not publicly talked about. That's
no. But I can't remember a specific one, probably because there have been so many, because you must have had the same thing, that you would be what happened, well, let's put it, I don't want to put it on you, let's put it on me. So I would have conversations with people, and I would beat myself up over the head after the conversation, either on a call or in a one-on-one conversation. After that, I would beat myself over the head because I had said something stupid and just realized it afterwards, or didn't do it, and I would beat myself over the head because I didn't say something that I should have.
Yeah.
Like, shit, I should have, God damn it. One thing that I do remember is that I was speaking to someone in London, and that was really embarrassing. And this was my embarrassment because I had a really good conversation with someone. I won't mention his or her name or whatever. And the person I was speaking to wasn't really fit. They were a bit, that's
the opposite.
But yeah, a little bit of timber, and we started talking about running, and I don't know how we ended up there. And I said something in a sense, it just came out of me, and I said, "Well, you wouldn't know, but running is something."
Oh,
and the second it came out of my mouth, I was like, "Oh my God, what you idiot, what are you saying?" And just prove to myself that I'm a moron. So and I could see the person's face just just for a second just go and I tried to get out of the conversation really quickly. Never heard from that person ever again, of course. And rightly so, because that was, but just came out. And that happens to me quite a bit. Might be in this video.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well,
but that's also what I like when we talk together, because you're straightforward. You're just like you're honest and true yourself. You're like, at least when we talk, you're not like, through the back door I tell you something which you might need. It's like, hey, that's shit.
Yeah,
I like that way more. I know it's not always the smartest thing with clients.
No, it's not. It's not. But that's to that point. That's the only way I know how to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it because I'm being an asshole, or I'm not doing it because I want to. It is, in fact, just the only way I know how to. And that's one of the reasons why I don't like politics inside of companies, is because I'm really bad at them. I don't because I refuse, and I cannot play. It's like that's getting me to play soccer, football, and I'm really shit at football. Even when I was a kid, they would put me like to be the goalie because the worst kid always had to get to be the goalie in the street when we played, and even that I was bad at. So for me, it's politics inside of companies or large corporations is the same thing. I can't play because I don't know how to, and I always lose because it's like, I don't. It's like getting me to, I don't know, drive a Formula One car. I can't. So the only way that I know to do these things is just to say what I think and hopefully land somewhere. And I do try to control myself, but it's not. I'm never purposefully rude. It's not like I told that person about that running incident in that conversation on purpose. It just came out of me. And then I was like, oh my God, you're an idiot. And then, so hopefully not too many of those, but that's the way, again, that's the only way I know how to do these things.
I like it. Keep it.
Yeah. And, I would also say that people that I work with appreciate that as well. So that's another good thing, I think.
So if you would start over again, it's like thinking about, like, you move from a large corporation doing an entrepreneurship, and there might be some listeners who might be interested. Okay, how can I do that? What are the big things? So what would be 1-2 things you would give as a recommendation, like for
how to set it up, you mean? Or?
No, it's more, it's like how to get over the fear of starting your own business or staying in the large corporation, because I know a lot of people who are at that situation. They would love to do something, but they're not there yet to open the door and go through it? What would you recommend, or what was your experience on that?
First of all, for me, it was very important to have the support of my wife. And I don't want to go in too long into that, but without that support, I wouldn't have been able to do that at all. Second, I mean, I was lucky in the sense that I was financially also able to do that. So you also have to have, some sort of a backing or savings or some sort of a security to be able to do this. You can't just one day, it's not like you one day decide I'm going to do something else and next day you're getting paid. It doesn't work like that. Well, at least not for me. So that's the second bit that for me, it was very, very important. And I'm just trying to think. I don't want to sound corny. I don't want to sound but it's I don't want to say experiment, but it is definitely about trying and failing. And doing something and then thinking, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that. Or, hey, this is working, and then trying something else. Or it's definitely, for me, it's been learning by failing, which probably is true for many people. I think I would even say that even the people who say that they never made mistakes or barely make mistakes is probably not true. It's well, at least not in my case. I tend to think I have a good idea to do something or say something, and I think it over quite a bit. It's not like just shoot. I think about stuff quite a bit, but then just do it and see where it goes. If it lands at least a little bit, if it lands good, I'll push it forward. I'll throw it away, throw it in the air again. If it doesn't, well, I'll throw something else in here. So it's learning from that. And I know this is very stereotypical for people who start their businesses, unless you're baking cakes. But it's the same thing. You bake one cake and that's shit, and another cake and another cake. So I think that would be the. And also when I was starting, when we were starting Statebrook, I should say, I also had my business partner Dion, who also was involved in this, and especially on the side of sort of the commercial side of things, and because he's always been on the agency side, and I was always being on the client side. So to have his support in this as well, to learn the art of cold calling, cold emailing, and stuff like that was, for me, it's horrible. But for him, he helped me really a lot with that, and to change a little bit my thinking and my fear of reaching out to people. So yeah, that's I would say that was quite essential for, and to have someone, a business partner or someone that you can talk about what is going on with your business and what are you trying to do. And that's one thing that I missed leaving a company, leaving a big corporate, is that it was difficult to have, it's much more difficult to have feedback.
Yeah, true.
Because it's pretty much you and whoever else, but it's like two people in this case. And well, sometimes you need opinions of one it's helpful to have opinions of others. And if you're in a big corporation, there are multiple people you can speak to.
Who have too much opinions.
well, okay, but at least you hear something else.
Yeah, true.
You might hear something about a coffee machine and think, Jesus, that, But in this case, you're sitting there going like, it feels lonely at times. It does. And you start doubting, you start thinking, I shouldn't have done that. And look at all the other, you start comparing yourself to others, and then you have to get rid of that. And it's in my case, definitely, it's always been also I don't want to call it psychological, but it is. It's a battle in your mind as well, trying to fight, those kind of things. They're trying to find don't compare yourself to others. Don't think this. Don't think that. Don't pick. Have your own opinion. So it's always a buzz. It's always a machine that's sort of running, and that you have to learn to control. I don't know if I answered your question, but
yeah, it's super good. Before we dive into your podcast, because I would like to know a bit more about that. On a positive note, what makes all of that worth it?
All of the decisions that I've made in my own business have been my own. That's and all the mistakes that I've made are my own, and all the successes that I've had are my own. So that feels really, really, really good. And that's I think the biggest positive is that whatever the business did, it was me. And if I had success, it was me. If I failed, it was me. But you pick yourself up and you dust yourself off and go like, all right. So yeah, that's I think that's the most attractive thing for me when it comes to business. And also, we spoke earlier about saying things directly. That is also, for me at least, is I can say whatever I want, because I don't have to be careful or not too careful about a listed company or what my boss is going to say, or I'm free to give my own opinion and stick with it. So
absolutely, yeah.
That's
a
huge. You must know that too.
Yeah, that's you don't need to play someone else's cards. It's like you just play your cards.
Yeah.
So going into your podcast, tell us what your podcast is about.
Well, the podcast is just conversations with interesting people around anything really, mostly around business, and that's normal because the people that I invited to speak to on my podcast were at least somehow related to the property industry, because I've been in it for a long time. So most of the people that I know from a professional perspective are people who are involved in property. So it's just conversations about, and really sort of casual conversations about things that are happening in our lives. And then, of course, work is part of life. So that's how they come up. I have to say that I haven't published or recorded a podcast for a little while now, but I will again starting in January. Restart the whole thing. Some of the things too many things got in the way to be able to do that every week. I started with twice a week and then went to once a week, and then so now it's going probably to be once every 2 weeks or something like that. We'll see. I'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's the podcast. And the reason for the podcast was absolutely no commercial thinking or direct commercial thinking behind that. I had this idea to do this because I'm a big podcast listener. I've been podcast listener for years. Then I thought, well, in the property industry, there are no real podcasts, just normal people talking to each other. And then I thought, well, I can do that. And I certainly have. I knew that I have the technological knowledge to get it done, because I'm a geek, so I can do that. And then I was like, well, let's invite Jens, speak to him. Let's invite, you were the first guest on my podcast. So
yeah, I still remember.
Yeah, so it's and that was a really, really, really good. And funny thing so I stopped. I sort of let go of the podcast a little bit, and as I said, I'll pick it up again. But I thought no one would notice. I was like, yeah, But once I stopped recording after a few weeks, people were saying, "Oh, hey, by the way, what's happening with the podcast?" Like, oh yeah, shit, yeah, I'll pick it up again. And I really thought no one would know. It's like, not a failure. But no, it's. I can't say that it's. I didn't have like thousands of listeners, but hundreds I did, which is great. And I love doing it. I love chatting with people.
So why should someone who is not inside the property industry listen to your podcast?
Because it speaks about it's just people talking. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter. I think many of the things that we discussed in my podcast were not, well, of course they were property related, but they are relevant to other businesses as well, because it was mostly, or it is mostly, about looking how you look at things and how you think about things and how you think about change and how you think about approaching change and anticipating change and that kind of thing. So it's I know you are obviously in sort of innovation, and with your sort of goal to was it 1 million people that you want to sort of introduce? Yeah, it's for me, innovation is all about sort of anticipating change and being able to recognize the needs of people, of businesses, of society, if you want. Have enough empathy to understand what those needs are and what needs to happen for those things to either change or the problems to be solved. And that for me is innovation. So if it's for property, if it's for anything, it is always about anticipating change and understanding what the needs are and then fulfilling those needs. Mm-hmm. And so that's what the podcast is also about. So it can be about anything. It can be about, I don't know, this mouse. I don't care. It's I always say, like, it's a property is a product as much as this phone cover is a product. It fulfills a need of not, solves a problem of not breaking this bloody thing. And when you start looking at everything or anything from that perspective, then it's much easier, at least for me, to see if there are any solutions that can be created to solve those problems.
Yeah.
So that's what the podcast is about.
I really like the episode, and we will not dive into this, where you talk to Paul, who is a plus 60-year-old person, amazing person, friend of us, who started going back to school with 60 plus. So please check this out, guys. It's a really interesting conversation. Moving into innovation. So you said innovation is kind of anticipating and looking into what the future is and how you could kind of use the behavior changes and innovate based on that. So what do you see with your clients and with the people you work with in the big corporations is the biggest struggle they have with innovating and changing how they're thinking?
The biggest struggle is not specifically with my clients, but with my experiences with other companies, is that their size is probably, they always say like it's like turning a huge ship around. You can't just steer. Yeah. So everything needs to follow. So I think the biggest challenge is that. And probably second biggest challenge is the willingness or the lack of willingness to change. And that's related to so many things. I mean, it can be related to someone's personal interests or business interest or career interest, but it can also be related to finances and the way the business has always been done. So it's never one thing. It's never one break. There's always more breaks to shift and change and innovate than one would think from the surface. So, personal careers can also be just an issue for change as well. And especially if you're in a business that has been in a monopoly position for a very long time, and then needs to change. Like, why would I change? I mean, it's like it's really well for the last 70 years. Why do you want me to sort of all of a sudden shift? Well, because you're getting, you're getting passed by all the other companies. You're not seeing what's happening. Yeah, but this is good. I feel comfortable at that. So there's so many things, but I think size, the bigger the company, the more difficult it is. The more people you have to convince, obviously, the more difficult it is. But and also the expertise to be able to change. It's difficult to teach an old dog new tricks, like they say. And I count myself as one of those old dogs, but there's also lack of knowledge, experience, balls to actually do something different because of many reasons. But
yeah. So what did you learn recently, or how did you innovate with your business or personally in the last couple of weeks?
I can't say that I've innovated personally. Well, one innovation for me has been that like for everyone, but as you know, I've moved from London after almost 5 years being in London. I've moved to the countryside in Kent. So innovation for me is all of a sudden finding myself it's not even a village. It's just a row of houses in the middle of Kent, surrounded by green fields and forests and rain and mud and awesome trails for running. That's been innovation. My personal innovation, I think, because it's helped me to sort of, again, broaden my views and change the way I think, because I'm all of a sudden in a completely 180 degrees different environment that I was in London. I used to live in very, very centrally in London, so it's a completely different kind of thing. So that's on the side of sort of personal innovation. Last 2.5 months.
Yeah, nice. So we're slowly going to the end, and really appreciating that you take that much time.
It's fine.
So if you would have the chance to record a podcast, one episode, which would be listened to from every person in the world, what would be the podcast episode about?
Ooh, now we're getting sort of big head questions here. What would it be about? I think it would be, and I'm going to sound now really philosophical again. It would have to be about empathy in any way, in any sense. I mean, in every sense. Not just empathy around, understanding someone's issues, but empathy also in the sense that you can put yourself in. Well, that's literally that's probably literally the definition of empathy. Trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes, not just to solve their personal problems, but also understand how you can influence things that make their day-to-day lives easier. And I think it would be about empathy, about understanding and listening to other people. That would probably be it. I wouldn't change anything, because we all still, individuals, and we, especially today, we like to hear ourselves talk quite a bit in a little echo chambers. But we would have to be empathy in life, empathy in business specifically, and empathy in related to innovation, because without understanding someone else, there's no way of innovating. When I say someone else, I mean another business, another group of people, another gender, if you don't understand them, then you're innovating for yourself. You're solving your own problems. Well, you can do that in your own time, but don't do that for as a business. Yeah, it would be about empathy. So what do you think about that?
No, it's super nice. I would love to listen to it, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be that. But how are you? So you started your video podcast here now. So how are you finding doing this? I mean, it's new to you.
Yeah, it's kind of weird still. I mean, especially when you're a coach, then you're asking a lot of questions, which I'm still doing here as well, and you don't talk yourself because you use the power of silence. But like one of my coaches said, it's maybe not the best way to be quiet the whole time in a podcast. So that's also one of the reasons I started that, because I want to challenge myself to do something completely new, which like gets me out of my comfort zone. And that's why I'm publishing the episodes on the day when I'm recording them, at least the Facebook episodes. So it's even harder to jump. But it's also, I want to stay true to innovation. So I want to show as well the progress, because the first ones have been super crappy. Now we're getting slowly a little bit better. And I hope at least in 2, 3, 4 months, it will be even better. So the equipment is changing, the background is changing, the hoodie is changing.
The guests are still crappy. But
No. No, I think the guests are good from the beginning. So I've had really the good people on the podcast already. But it's for me, it's really, if I want to make bigger impact in the world, I need to be out there. So if I'm not talking, if I'm not being present, then nobody will listen to me. Nobody will listen or get impacted by me. So that's why I've set myself this goal to now I will double down and make something big. Not that I haven't done that in the past, but it's a different way now. Yeah, and it's not like, behind a curtain where it's like, hey, I'm a big company, and it's like, you can't see me. I do something now. Now it's more about like my personal perspective in a lot of things, which I like. Yeah.
Yeah, you like you said, you put yourself out there, and I remember the first time I was posting my own first podcast was you, and actually, when I was pushing out like the introduction of my podcast, and what I did, I just took my phone and I filmed myself, and I was talking to the camera and just pushed that out, and it really felt like walking naked in the street.
Yeah.
So, and it is, but it is fun, and but it did, like you say, did teach me quite a bit about listening and talking. And although I was a guest here, so I'm allowed to speak as long as I want.
Exactly. Now, and that's also one of the reasons it's an interesting way to connect again. I mean, we're connected almost every second week, but it's also like I can reach out to people I haven't been connected to, and it's a nice way of interacting with each other. It's slightly more public than usual, but it's cool. So if we fast forward a year from today, where do you believe you will be, and what happened to you and your family and your business?
Well, on the business side of things, I know. Well, I don't know if 100%, but there's going to be a substantial change in my business from the 1st of January that I'm really, really excited about. But we'll need to catch up on that once everything is done. I don't want to jinx anything. So there's going to be a substantial change in my business, and a very positive change. So that's going to be awesome. From the personal side of things, I mean, my wife and myself, we're both loving the countryside life. I can't wait for it to be, March, April. So the rain stops hopefully. And
does it ever stop? And
it does
around London.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's not that different from the Netherlands, to be honest. But so. Yeah, it is. I'm really enjoying and enjoying the country life together with my wife. And somewhere it was an experiment because we wanted to do something different. Because our thinking was literally, we live in a huge city. London is a almost 9 million people living on top of each other. It's a really very special and very, very cool and attractive and city, and I love London. But then where do you go from there? Like you want to, so when you go to that, so what we decided to do is like, all right, let's not try to replicate that. Let's go the other way. Let's go 180 degrees the other side, and this is it. So I don't have sheep and dogs and cats and chickens yet. Sometime, God knows, maybe I will.
Maybe in a year from now.
Yeah, maybe in a year from now, I'll be. We'll be filming this. I'll be surrounded by chicken.
I would love to.
So yeah, me too. So yeah, that's what I think I'll be in a year.
Cool.
What do you think where would you want to be in a year? What do you think where you would be?
In a year from now, I'm an inch away of reaching the 1 million people, which I will manage next year. And most probably I will need to do a little push in the end to get to that level. So I will be in the last, I guess I will be in the last preparations for a huge event to get to the 1 million and then celebrate together with them.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that will happen. So that's
can I ask, what does that mean? What would that mean? How do you sort of define if you've helped someone innovate, yes or no?
I'm still on the way to figure that out.
Okay.
So for me, it's more, I need, and that's what I'm building up. So I'm starting to impact, of course, my clients, which I can verify, and the people I work with. But it's more, I want to find as well ways on the go how to verify that and how to make it true. So I want to have a measurable understanding. Hey, that worked, and it should not be just, hey, I have 5,000 followers on Facebook or whatever, or 1 million. It should be an interaction. There should be something. So I might have different measures, but I'm building that up. That's why I'm starting in January, not today. It's like innovating on the go the whole time.
Yeah. What time is it? It's the 21st. 31st.
Yeah, but that's the good thing working with innovation, because for me, it's like, that's why I put that goal, because I don't exactly know how to reach it, but I will understand when I'm on the path. And the journey is more important than reaching the end goal. I mean, the end goal is important for me, but it's just the journey. Let's say, worst case, I will just help 20 people to innovate, but they do amazing and change their life. That would be all it does. Yeah. And it's if with my goal having 1 million as a goal, if I do 2 more than this year, I'm happy.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I really want to make bigger impact in this world, and that's why I said that. Yeah.
Cool. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
I'll hear anyway.
No, you will be part of it. So, where can the listeners find you? How can they reach out to you?
2 ways. One is they can go to statebrook.com. That's the website of the business, or just LinkedIn. Look me up, look Antonio Pavlovic up, and I'll show up with a few other ones. I'm not probably the only one with a big head and graying beard, so that'll probably be me.
Yeah. Cool. So thank you very much for being with me, spending the time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I love these. So yeah, we'll speak again soon.
Yeah, let's do another one in the future. Cool. Thank you very much. And for all the listeners out there, thank you for listening. My name is Jens Heitland. If you like this episode and would like to follow me on my journey to reach the 1 million people to innovate, please follow me on social media, and see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Take me to another place where the fairy tales don't end. Magical land, magical land. To another place where the fairy tales don't end. Magical